Okay, so are you ready to dive into something spooky?
Always up for a good ghost story.
Well, today's deep dive takes us all the way to India.
India. Oh, you mean to that legendary Bhangarh Fort, right? The one they call the most haunted place in India.
That's the one. A place so shrouded in spooky tales it practically got a neon sign flashing, "Enter if you dare."
And what's our source material today?
We're going to be exploring an excerpt from a story originally written in Hindi.
Sounds intriguing. Tell me more.
It follows four friends, Rohan, Ajay, Sneha, and Neelam, on a trip to this supposedly haunted fort. They plan to spend the night there.
Hold on, they're actually planning a sleepover at Bhangarh Fort. Talk about tempting fate.
You got it. The story starts with the friends kind of brushing off all the local legends. They're young, adventurous, and totally convinced the stories are just stories.
That's how it always starts in these stories, right? Disbelief and a healthy dose of useful arrogance. What could possibly go wrong?
Famous last words. But what's really interesting is how their journey to the fort is like a slow buildup of suspense.
Oh.
How so?
They keep running into locals along the way who share these creepy tales about the fort, about a sorcerer's curse, about a tragic love story involving a queen.
It's like the story is dropping little hints, warning signs that something isn't quite right.
Exactly. It makes you wonder if they're already being drawn into the fort's web of mystery.
I'd be getting a little nervous by that point, I think. What happens next?
Well, things get really weird during their drive to the fort. The car mysteriously stalls. They catch glimpses of a fleeting shadow following them.
Uh-oh. Those are some classic horror movie tropes.
Right, and to top it off, they even see glowing red eyes in the darkness. I mean, come on, that's not your average car trouble, is it?
Nope, that sounds like something straight out of a nightmare.
And you know what happens when they finally reach the fort?
What?
They meet an old gatekeeper who practically begs them to leave before sunset.
Oh, I bet they ignore him, right? Of course. They're on a mission to debunk the myths, and nothing's going to stop them. They walk right into the fort, and that's when things really start to go off the rails.
So what's the vibe inside the fort?
The story does an amazing job of making you feel uneasy, just from the descriptions.
How so?
Whispers, flickering lights, things brushing against them, shadows appearing and disappearing. It's like the fort itself is alive and toying with them.
That's a clever way to build tension.
Right. And then, just when they think they can handle it all, they make a horrifying discovery.
What's that?
The fort gates have mysteriously closed, trapping them inside.
Oh no, no way out. Talk about a nightmare scenario.
It's like the fort has them right where it wants them.
They're stuck, forced to face the very thing they were so quick to dismiss.
And their night of terror is just beginning. They huddle together in a corridor, hoping to wait it out until morning. But then Neelam, who's been feeling uneasy this whole time, has a terrifying nightmare.
What happens in the dream?
She wakes up to strange sounds and sees the shadowy figure of a woman. And then each of the friends starts experiencing their own horrifying visions.
Wow, so the story really personalizes the horror, huh?
It's like whatever's haunting the fort knows exactly what scares each of them. And then, as if things couldn't get any worse, they come face to face with the source of the curse.
No way! The sorcerer himself!
You got it, the ghost of Tantric India. And this guy, let me tell you, has a backstory for the ages. A tale of thwarted love, accidental death, and a curse born out of pure rage.
That's heavy stuff. Does he explain why he cursed the fort?
Oh yeah, he lays it all out. He was in love with his queen, Queen Ratnavati, but his love potion went wrong and she accidentally died, and then he ended up dying too, crushed by a cursed stone.
So he's blaming the fort for his misfortune.
Pretty much. His rage and grief are so powerful they've lingered all these years, cursing anyone who dares to stay after sunset.
That's intense. It makes you wonder if he's more tragic figure than a villain.
Well, he's definitely got a tragic backstory, but his actions are pretty terrifying.
No argument there. So the friends are now trapped in a cursed fort with a vengeful spirit. What happens next?
You'll have to wait for part 2 to find out. I mean, you gotta wonder, is there more to it than just a heartbroken dude with a serious anger problem?
Well, that's what makes this story so chilling, right? It adds this layer of depth to the sorcerer's character. He's not just some evil entity. He's driven by love loss and this overwhelming need for revenge.
It makes him kind of relatable in a weird way.
Right, like we've all felt those emotions, but most of us don't go around cursing entire forts, thankfully.
Yeah, that would make breakups a lot messier. But back to our friends, they're terrified, trapped with a vengeful ghost, and then things escalate even further.
What happens?
Neelam. She becomes the target of the sorcerer's rage.
Oh no.
She screams, saying she's being dragged away by an unseen force, and then collapses unconscious.
So it's not just visions and whispers anymore.
Nope, it's a full-on supernatural attack. The stakes have definitely been raised.
It's like the story is shifting from psychological horror to something much more tangible and dangerous.
And for the friends, it's a total game changer. It shows that the curse is real. It can hurt them.
They're in way over their heads.
Big time. But in this moment of pure desperation, Sneha remembered, she's the actress, well, she remembers she has a picture of the Hindu god Shiva in her bag.
Shiva.
Yep. And she starts chanting his name. It's a pretty powerful scene.
I can imagine, is there significance to that particular god?
Absolutely. Shiva is a major deity in Hinduism, often associated with destruction and creation and overcoming negativity.
So she's calling on a force to counter the sorcerer's dark magic.
Exactly. It's like a battle of good versus evil playing out in this haunted fort.
And what happens? Does Shiva answer her call?
Well, the sorcerer's shadow, it starts to tremble and then vanishes just like that.
Wow. So the power of faith prevails.
It seems that way. The friends, they see their chance and make a run for it. They find the fort gates open and flee into the night.
So they escape.
But the story doesn't end there. Remember that priest I mentioned?
The one they consult after the whole ordeal?
Yep. Well, he confirms that the sorcerer's curse is real and warns them about the consequences.
So even though they got out of the fort, they're not in the clear.
Not even close. The priest lays down some heavy karmic retribution for their actions.
It's like that old saying, you can run, but you can't hide.
Especially from a vengeful sorcerer, it seems. And you know what happens next?
What?
Each of the friends, they start to experience terrible things. Neelam, she attempts suicide and ends up in a coma.
Oh my gosh.
Ajay is a crippling accident. Sneha, she descends into madness.
That's awful. It's like the curse is following them, manifesting in ways that are specific to their fears and vulnerabilities.
It's like the sorcerer's power is amplified by their own anxieties, twisting their fears into reality.
So is the fort truly cursed, or is it the power of fear itself causing their downfall?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? They were so convinced the fort was cursed that every little thing seemed to confirm their belief. Did they, in a way, manifest their own misfortune?
It's a chilling thought. The power of suggestion can be incredibly strong, especially when it's fueled by fear and guilt.
And the story, it doesn't let us forget about Bhangarh Fort. It concludes with a reminder that the place remains abandoned to this day.
With locals still reporting strange occurrences?
It's like a warning. This isn't just some made-up tale. This place is the real deal.
It plays into our primal fear of the unknown and the power of stories to shape our beliefs and perceptions.
So what we have here is more than just a ghost story. It's a story about the consequences of ignoring local wisdom, the power of belief to shape reality, and the insidious nature of fear.
It makes you question what you believe, why you believe it, and how those beliefs can impact your life.
And maybe it reminds us that some places are best left undisturbed.
Yeah.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Definitely makes you pause before you book that next weekend getaway to a spooky abandoned fort.
Right. But seriously though, I think this story is a reminder to pay attention to those local legends and beliefs.
Like, they often hold some wisdom or truth, even if we don't fully understand it.
Exactly. They're like a window into a culture's history and relationship with a place.
And it's not about blindly believing every spooky tale you hear, but about having respect for different perspectives.
Right, because what might seem like a silly superstition to us could hold deep meaning for someone else.
And sometimes ignoring those warnings can have some pretty serious consequences, as we saw with our friends in this story.
No kidding. But it also makes you think about the role of fear in all of this.
How so?
Were the friends truly cursed, or did their fear make them more susceptible to the negative events that unfolded?
That's the question, isn't it? How much of our reality is shaped by our own beliefs and expectations?
It's like we create these self-fulfilling prophecies.
It's a powerful concept, and one that this story really drives home.
And it makes you wonder about the power of stories themselves.
In what way?
Well, we love spooky stories, right?
Yeah.
We're drawn to them, even if we don't necessarily believe them.
They tap into something primal within us, a fascination with the unknown, the unexplainable.
And those stories, they can shape our perceptions of the world around us.
Absolutely. They can influence our beliefs, our fears, our understanding of what's possible.
So the next time you hear a creepy tale about a haunted place,
Don't just brush it off.
maybe take a moment to consider what it might be revealing about human nature, about our relationship with the unknown, about the power of belief.
Because sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that make us question our own perceptions of reality.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the chilling legend of Bhangarh Fort.
It's been a fascinating journey into the heart of fear, belief, and the enduring power of stories.
Thanks for joining us, listeners. We hope you enjoyed this exploration of the supernatural and the mysteries that continue to haunt us.
And remember, if you ever find yourself near an abandoned fort at sunset, maybe think twice before you enter.
Sweet dreams, everyone.